Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast is your one-stop shop for fantasy football news and advice. Can't decide on who to draft on the first round? Going gaga on how to line up your team? We've got you covered. Traditional leagues, dynasty leagues, PPR leagues, IDP league, even daily fantasy football league. Join us as we break down all the questions of fantasy football. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. Man, that was a perfect intro right there. But back on track. All right, Super Bowl week. Eagles, Patriots, Tom Brady, Nick Foles. You guys know how we've been doing it in playoffs in the Pro Bowl. Even that, look at that. We did a Pro Bowl fantasy football show. All right. I gave you guys options. I mean, some of them really didn't work out. I mean, I'm not even sure. I didn't even get to talk to you guys about the Pro Bowl or anything like that. I'm not sure what everyone else thought of it. I barely watched it. The Pro Bowl just isn't for me anymore. I know All-Star games are for me, actually. I just can't stand them. I think they're boring. All-Star weekends are cool. Pro Bowl Skills Showdown's cool. I like in the NBA, like the little the three-point contest, slam dunk contest. NHL's got a nice little skill showdown too, but NHL's just terrible at promoting things. But nonetheless, getting back to it, yeah, we did a Pro Bowl show, so now we got to do one for the Super Bowl. All right, so here's how today's show is going to go. First segment, as we've done pretty much the last few weeks, we're going to talk about the only game going on, Super Bowl, Eagles, Patriots. All right, we're going to talk about who you need to put in your team, who you need to not put on your team. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh yeah, by the way, Alex Smith traded to the Redskins. Going to talk about that. All right, we'll be talking about the Cheifs going forward with Patrick Mahomes, how that looks for your fantasy football options next year. Also going to talk about the Tennessee Titans. They got their offensive coordinator. I really like the hire there. Let's see, am I missing anything else that happened this week? I'm not sure. Nonetheless, whatever I'm missing or not thinking about, we'll save it for the fourth segment because, as you know, and as always for that fourth segment, we just pretty much talk about whatever's going through in the fantasy football world, whatever's going through my head. So I'm sure we'll find something. But nonetheless, let's talk Super Bowl. All right, here it is, the big game. All right, no one thought the Eagles would be here. I definitely did not, especially with Nick Foles playing quarterback. All right, the Eagles with Carson Wentz, yeah, I thought they'd make it to the Super Bowl. That was my pick. All right. I think I have audio of me saying that, hopefully. But nonetheless, yeah, Carson Wentz is the Eagles quarterback. Thought that they'd be going to the Super Bowl. Thought that they'd probably be able to win the Super Bowl. Then the guy blows out his knee. Nick Foles comes in. Next day, nope, Nick Foles not taking him to the Super Bowl. Congrats, Philly. You're getting bounced in the divisional round. What does Nick Foles do? He takes him to the Super Bowl. All right. So that's how Philly got here. Obviously, there's more to it, but nonetheless, you get what I'm saying. How did the Patriots get here? How did the Patriots get here all the time? All right. Isn't it crazy to think about? If not for Eli Manning, and that's also a crazy thing there, but if not for Eli Manning, Tom Brady already has 7 Super Bowls. Could be going for his 8th. All right. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Tom Brady, one of the best of all time, might even be the best of all time. Nonetheless, here he is again. Bill Belichick back. Also, too, it reminds me, I think the ESPN 30 for 30 with Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick is going to be coming out today. That's going to be an interesting watch right there because I'm interested because Bill Belichick doesn't say words. He doesn't talk. Bill Belichick is not he's not like someone who really expresses himself or anything like that. So I'm really interested, but nonetheless, he's out here taking him to the Super Bowl again. And now it's a game of matchups. All right. What do I like in this game? We're going to talk about the game more than we're usually doing in the last few shows. All right, we're going to do some more analysis than we usually do because it's the Super Bowl, so why not? Give a little more inside look into it. So let's just get it started. So, obviously, Gronk, he's been limited in practice, going through the concussion protocol, but today it was announced that he's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. He's cleared. This is news to no one. All right? So now Philly's got to worry about what they're going to do with Gronk. And I've said it, and I said it on the sports podcast and the football podcast that, I mean, Gronk doesn't really affect the wins or losses, the win or loss in this game, whether he plays or doesn't play. And what I mean by that, if he doesn't play, you're not going to go out and say, oh yeah, the Patriots are the underdogs now. No, you're still going to think they're the favorites. All right? So him being out there, him not being out there, doesn't affect it because either way, you think the Patriots are the favorites still. So, I mean, it's a pretty nice little position to be in. Oh yeah, if the greatest tight end of all time isn't playing, we'll still be the favorites and we'll still have probably the best chance to win. But nonetheless, he's playing. So what does that do for your fantasy team? Do you go out and pick up Rob Gronkowski, or are you going Zach Ertz this week? This is a bit of a tough one here. All right, Gronk's out here, cleared from his concussion, full participant in Thursday's practice, obviously. So who do you go with? Do you go with the best tight end of all time, or do you go with the tight end who's been really solid so far in the postseason? Let's look at the defenses right here. Who has the better defense? Obviously, out of the two, it's Philly. Who is the most prepared as far as players go and their talents to stop a tight end? Philly. All right? But there's the whole thing with the Patriots tight end being the best of all time. All right, you can do whatever you want against him. He's still going to succeed. And I'm not sure who I'd pick up. I'm trying to talk myself through it, trying to talk about it and see. But I think the safe pick, honestly, is Zach Ertz. But I don't understand. I don't see how you go away from Gronk. I've been saying it so far in this postseason that Gronk is the surefire tight end that you pick up. And I understand that Gronk's going to eat up some of that budget in your daily fantasy when you're picking players, but I don't know. Do you just pretty much say, for screw it, I'm taking Gronk, or do you save that budget, use a little bit of it on Zach Ertz, and then go and get probably a bigger name player? I'm not sure. I think that we're gonna go talk about position by position, and then you know what? After that, I think I'll be ready to make my decisions. All right. So let's go quarterbacks. Nick Foles or Tom Brady? This is almost like a trick question type of thing right here. I'm not sure. All right, because like I said, Philly's got the best defense out of the two, and do we think that Tom Brady's going to go out and throw for over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns? Do we think that's going to happen? I don't think that it... I got to be careful. I don't think that it does, but he's more than capable, as you know. Nick Foles, dude's been lights out so far in the postseason, playing well, throwing the ball against the Vikings, man. He threw the ball deep. Can you believe that? He threw the ball deep. All right? So, I mean, as far as quarterbacks go, I'm kind of stuck there. I feel like Tom Brady's going to be the more expensive option, but Nick Foles has been very, very serviceable. All right? Almost more than serviceable. He's been that good. And this Patriots defense isn't the greatest. All right? Yeah, you got Stephon Gilmore and Malcolm Butler, but I think that Nick Foles could do a little something against this Patriots defense. Let's look at the running backs. Dion Lewis, LeGarrette Blount, you got James White, Jay Ajayi. All right, those are probably the 4 running backs that are going to get the most touches from their respective teams. Dion Lewis, what do we think of him? I think that for your running backs, I think you got to go Dion Lewis and you got to go Jay Ajayi. I don't think you really have too many options. Maybe a guy like Rex Burkhead could be a sleeper type right here. New England gets down to the end zone, goal line. Boom, get the ball to Rex Burkhead a couple of times. But James White has been that number 2 option for the Patriots so far in the postseason. So Rex Burkhead I'm kind of iffy about. But nonetheless, if I have to pick 2 running backs to start on my team, it's going to be Dion Lewis and Jay Ajayi. All right, you got to go with the 2 best. Dion Lewis, I don't think he's going to really run for too many yards, but as I've been saying so far this postseason, he's going to get the ball a bunch out of the backfield as far as catching it. All right, he's been doing well there, and he's been putting up nice little fantasy points there. So Dion Lewis, obviously, that's a must play right there. And I think J.J. looked better. He's looked better as each game has progressed in these playoffs, and I think he's going to do really well against his Patriots defense. So obviously, right there, those are the two running backs that I'm picking up. So we got the running back positions picked up. How about receivers? Danny Amendola, Brandon Cooks, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, Torrey Smith, Chris Hogan. All right, what do we like there? I think we like Alshon Jeffrey. I think we like Danny Amendola. Danny Amendola has been on a tear so far this postseason. On a tear. All right, back-to-back 100-yard games, I believe. Had, 2 touchdowns in the AFC Championship, I think it was. So he's been playing well. I think you got to pick up Danny Amendola. All right. So who do you pick up next? Brandon Cooks, Alshon Jeffrey. I'm going to go Alshon Jeffrey. Dude's been playing well. Had, 5 catches for 85 yards. I think he did have a touchdown. Yeah, had a touchdown against the Vikings. Been playing well. Nick Foles has been looking for him the entire time. So you go Danny Amendola, Alshon Jeffrey. Probably going to need a third receiver right there for your flex option because I don't think you go James White or LeGarrette Blount. So that's where Brandon Cooks comes in. Maybe that's your third receiver right there. Yeah, I'd go Danny Amendola, Brandon Cooks, and then Alshon Jeffrey for my receivers in this game. All right. Now let's go kickers real quick. Steven Gostkowski, Jake Elliott. Eagles defense is more than capable of coming up with stops, but it's not like the Patriots aren't going to be driving down the field. So let's say that Eagles get down the field, or the Patriots get down the field, Eagles defense comes up with a stop, boom, you got Gostkowski there, good kick a couple of field goals. But you got the Eagles. Patriots gave up a bunch of yards, don't give up too many touchdowns. That might be the option right there for kicker. All right, Jake Elliott might be the guy. Because like I said, I mean, if the Eagles are picking up a bunch of yards and not getting in the end zone, obviously you got to kick the football. Jake Elliott's been money so far this season. So yeah, kicker, I'm going Jake Elliott. How about defense? You got to go Phillies, right? This is actually kind of tougher than you think as deciding between the two defenses. Obviously, Philly has the better defense, but I mean, it's Bill Belichick, and Nick Foles is always capable of, you know what, just bombing it. Case Keenum did it in the NFC Championship game. Played well all season, and then boom, had the worst possible game you could have. All right. Could Nick Foles do that against the Patriots? Possibly. Patriots are going to be a cheaper option. Maybe that's where you can go and get a guy like Gronk. See, it's strategy right there. But if you go Patriots defense, that means you're going Tom Brady. Actually, no, because yeah. You have to, if you whatever defense you pick, you got to go with the quarterback of that team, I feel. So if you go Philly, then you got to go Nick Foles with your quarterback. If you go Patriots, you got to go with Tom Brady as your quarterback. All right, and plus you already have 2 Pats receivers, the running back. Yeah, I think that's what you got to do. As far as tight end goes, I'm not sure what would be left of the budget before, but I think you got to go Zach Ertz in order to round it out. I mean, if somehow you can end up with Gronk and just work your way around it, possibly, that would work too. So, if I had to pick, I'd go Zach Ertz because I feel like that's going to be the cheaper option that allows me to do more with my team. So, that's how I think it's going to end up. That's why I'm picking up. Game's going to be interesting to watch. This could be a close game. It could be a blowout. I think it's going to be close, and I think Philly has a real chance at winning it. I mean, they're the underdogs, obviously, and that's what ESPN and everyone else has been putting the narrative as. Who do I like in this one? All right. I don't like making my picks on Thursdays because I usually save them for Friday on the GSMC Sports and GSMC Football Show. But, I mean, since you guys are listening here, we got to make my pick on Thursday. And, you know, I might just change it tomorrow possibly. So, this is, as of right now, this is how I'm feeling. I'm leaning towards Philly right now. All right. Tom Brady's gone out. He's beat the Jake Delomes. He's beat the Kurt Warners. He's beat the Matt Ryans. Who else did he? He beat Russell Wilson. He beat, that's four, right? Wilson, Ryan, Delhomme, Warner. What was the other Super Bowl he won? McNabb. How can I forget the Eagles Super Bowl? So he's beat 5 really good quarterbacks. He lost to Eli Manning. And he might lose to Nick Foles. That'd be crazy. I can't believe Jake Delhomme played in the Super Bowl now that I think about it. But nonetheless, I'm going to go with the Eagles in this one. All right? That's my pick as of right now. That's subject to change. Listen to the podcast tomorrow, the GSMC Sports and GSMC Football ones, to see my final picks. But as of right now, I'm going with the Eagles. I like the way they've been playing. All right? They've been pretty much fighting that underdog narrative, just embracing it, saying, you know what, whatever, we're the underdogs. It's fine. All right, so I'm going to go with the Eagles. It's going to be a fun game, though. It's going to be a close one. It's going to be really exciting. All right, so that's how I think that's going to go. Those are the players I'd pick. So that's actually going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about good old Alex Smith going to the Redskins. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Talked about the Super Bowl, picked the team I expect to win, and picked the players I think you should pick up. So we did that. Now we're going to talk Alex Smith. It happened, you guys. It happened. Alex Smith got traded to the Washington Redskins on Tuesday night. All right. Washington gave up a third-round pick and cornerback Kendall Fuller to the Kansas City Chiefs. Fuller's expected to become a starter for the Chiefs at the Chiefs cornerback position along with Marcus Peters. And I like the deal for both teams. All right, I think it works out well for both. The Redskins get their quarterback. Chiefs get some much-needed secondary help. And now Patrick Mahomes is going to be their guy. And we're not going to talk about the Chiefs really too much in this segment. It's more going to be talking about Kirk Cousins just came up. We're going to be talking about Alex Smith, and the Redskins. Maybe we'll throw Kirk Cousins in the segment too. But yeah, we're going to be doing that. So it's going to be more focused on the Redskins and Alex Smith. So what do I think? I think that I like this move. If you're looking at Twitter and paying attention to what other people were saying, they were pretty much saying this was a terrible deal for Washington. Why would they do this? Why would they trade for a game manager type like Alex Smith? And that's one thing right there. We got to stop calling Alex Smith a game manager. Okay, he was a whole lot better than that this season. The guy threw for over 4,000 yards, and I think he had 26 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. All right. Played well this season. A game manager doesn't throw for more than 4,000 yards and 26 touchdowns, all right? He just doesn't. And I think that we got to start giving Alex Smith a little bit more respect, all right? As far as it all goes. I think that obviously the team that he's got in Washington isn't as talented on offense as the team he had in Kansas City, so people are probably seeing that there's most likely going to be a drop-off, but I think that there isn't going to be. I think that Alex Smith is still going to be a solid quarterback for the Redskins, all right? Yeah, you don't have Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you don't have Kareem Hunt. Yeah, you don't have Travis Kelce. But Jamison Crowder, Ryan Grant, Josh Dotson, Chris Thompson, Vernon Davis, maybe Jordan Reed if he learns how to stay healthy. That could be solid for Alex Smith. All right. Alex Smith, he's a good quarterback. Let's not get it confused or anything like that. Alex Smith is a good quarterback no matter what you think. All right. I feel like everyone thinks of Alex Smith as a game manager because I feel like everyone, like that's just been the thing that's been said for the first couple of years in Kansas City and like towards the end of his career in San Francisco. So that just stuck with everyone. Everyone thinks, oh, Alex Smith, wait, what do I know about him? Oh, yeah, he's a game manager. Like, no one's really paid attention to what he's done last year and even the year before that, okay? He had the best year of his career this past year, and I think it's going to work out for him in Washington. I think he's going to, like, obviously as far as putting up big numbers, it's not going to be like how it was in Kansas City. I'll tell you that much right now. He's not going to be able to do that, all right? Because that's not really the team he has. Jamison Crowder isn't really like a deep threat like Tyreek Hill. Josh Dotson, he played well, but I mean, he's still got to develop into a better receiver. Vernon Davis had one of the better years. He's had one of his better years since he left San Francisco. I mean, the guy, Vernon Davis, ever since he left San Francisco, really has just been struggling. But like I said, this past year, I mean, seemed to pick it up. And I mean, if Jordan Reed gets healthy, well, just manages to stay healthy, then that guy's numbers with Alex Smith are going to be through the roof. All right? They're going to be ridiculous. If Jordan Reed could somehow find a way to play a lot this season, then that's going to be Alex Smith's favorite target by far. Thinking about it now, I think Vernon Davis, even if like I say, Jordan Reed gets hurt again, which he probably will just because it's Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis comes in, fills in that number one spot. Vernon Davis could have a really solid year, probably the best year of his career since he's left San Francisco, I think. All right, I think that might be the case. Vernon Davis is a player to watch out for in your fantasy leagues. I don't think anyone will draft him, so that might be a guy you could wait, see how he does, and then pick him up off of waivers. Because like I said, I mean, no one's really expecting Vernon Davis to do too much, but don't forget, these guys played with each other in San Francisco, and they had a nice little connection. So, I mean, Vernon Davis, I think, could go for a big year. Let's see. And you know what? I said I was going to talk about the Titans. In the next segment, we're going to bring the Titans in for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes in the next one. So just a quick little fill-in right there. But nonetheless, going back to the Redskins, like Vernon Davis, like either of those tight ends, Vernon Davis or Jordan Reed, are going to have really solid years, I think. Jordan Reed obviously depends on him staying healthy. As far as Josh Dotson goes, I'm not too sure if he's going to be a solid little fantasy option this year, this next season. I mean, he did show flashes of what he could possibly be, but he just didn't really put it together. And I think Kirk Cousins fits Josh Dotson's style more than Alex Smith does. I think a guy like Jamison Crowder is going to thrive under a guy like Alex Smith. All right, Jamison Crowder doesn't need to go deep in order to be productive. He could run those little short routes, and Alex Smith is going to find him. So I think Jamison Crowder is probably going to have more fantasy upside this next season rather than Josh Dotson. All right, how about Ryan Grant? I think he's going to be a nice little bench option for your team next year. Maybe a possible third receiver on your team. But like that would be like in order to make him like even a third receiver in your team and start him, that'd have to be like pretty much you wait and see how he does during the season, like the first couple of weeks, and if he's showing that he's playing well, then that's when you insert him in. But as of right now, I mean that's a guy you just if you draft him, you just draft him to be on your bench. But I don't even think anyone's going to draft the guy. I think that's more of a wire pickup too. As for Chris Thompson, he's going to thrive also. All right, he's going to have the time of his life playing with Alex Smith. I was listening to an interview with Alex Smith the other day, and Alex Smith was saying how he used to throw to Jamal Charles all the time because you just give him the ball, and he was going to get out in open space and do his thing, play well. That's exactly what Chris Thompson could do. All right, I'm not comparing Chris Thompson to Jamal Charles. I mean, their play styles are similar in a way, but you get what I'm saying. So Chris Thompson, I think, is going to thrive with a quarterback like Alex Smith, and he already was with a guy like Kirk Cousins. He was a big part of that offense until he got hurt. So I think Chris Thompson and the tight ends are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of Alex Smith being there. But what's Alex Smith going to look like as far as fantasy football goes? Is he going to be like how he was this season? I don't think so. I think Alex Smith going to Washington, like I said, as far as like the football sense, I think it's going to work and it's going to be good. But as far as fantasy football goes for Alex Smith, I think that's a backup quarterback now in your league. Like that's not even a guy you draft, I don't think, unless your league Because me, as far as drafting quarterbacks, I really wait until the later rounds to pick one up. Like, go ahead, take Rodgers, take Tom Brady and all those guys. I think I'd be fine with a guy like this year. I had Case Keenum. I drafted Marcus Mariota. He wasn't working out, so I ended up picking up Case Keenum. Worked out there. Lost in the championship, but nonetheless, doesn't matter. So, quarterbacks, I really don't believe in them too much as far as fantasy football goes. But Alex Smith, like I said, if your league's one that drafts quarterbacks, usually drafts about 2 quarterbacks in one draft setting, then yeah, go with Alex Smith, draft him, but only as a backup. He's not going to be starting fantasy football quarterback material this year. He's not going to be throwing for 300 yards like he was this season. He's not going to be lighting up with touchdowns, all right? The tight ends are going to get the ball a bunch, and so is Chris Thompson. Other than that, the wide receivers, you got to wait and see pretty much how they're going to do. You don't draft them. You just wait. If they're doing well beginning the season, then you pick them up off the waiver wire. If not, no harm, no foul. So that's how that is. I was kind of surprised, too, seeing Alex Smith getting traded to the Washington Redskins. That's one team I really didn't think of too much as far as where he could end up, but nonetheless, it happened. So now let's talk about the... You know what? I said I was going to talk about the Titans. Yeah, let's just talk about the Titans for a bit. So, they hired their offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur. Was the offensive coordinator with the Rams for 1 year. Before that, he was the quarterback's coach in Atlanta during Matt Ryan's MVP season. And I can't remember, he was with a different team before that. But I can't remember exactly who he was working with. But nonetheless, everywhere Matt LaFleur has gone, his quarterbacks have thrived. All right, thrived. Matt Ryan, like I said, had his MVP year as LaFleur as his quarterback's coach. And then Jared Goff took a huge next step in his second year under LaFleur as his offensive coordinator. All right. Under Jeff Fisher, Jared Goff looked terrible. All right. People were starting to call him a bust, weren't really believing in him too much. I thought it was way too early to be calling him a bust, but nonetheless, that's what they were saying. All right, so people were wondering how he was going to do in his second year, and he looked good. Got the Rams to the playoffs and played extremely well. And as you know, Marcus Mariota really didn't play too well this season. I think had the 3rd most interceptions in the league. Only threw for 13 touchdowns. Just didn't look good at all. Didn't really take off with the ball too much. Just probably the worst year of his career so far. He's played like 3 years. Yeah, definitely the worst year of his career so far. So just hasn't looked good. This year, I think he's going to play a whole lot better than what he did this past season because of LaFleur. All right, this is a great hire for the Titans, especially with having Mike Vrabel as a coach. That guy's more of a defensive mind. Plus, he's got to pretty much now instead of just worrying about the defense, he's got to worry about the special teams. Pretty much, he's got the business owner of it. He's like a business owner as far as running a team, as far as being a head coach. All right, you got to worry about everything now. So now you got a guy like LaFleur that takes some heat off of Mike Vrabel. He's able to do more other things as far as dealing with the team. Able to look at the defense more because I know that defense needs to be fixed up in the draft. But as far as the Titans offense goes, I like it. I think Marcus Mariota is going to play extremely well. If Marcus Mariota is playing well, that means Derrick Henry is going to have, I think he's going to be playing well also. And then Corey Davis is a guy who's going to benefit big time from a hire like Matt LaFleur for the offensive coordinator position, all right? Corey Davis, I think, is going to take that next step this next season. Showed that what he could be, showed flashes, developed pretty well, scored 2 touchdowns against the Patriots in that divisional round game. So I think that's going to be a sleeper guy to pick up in your draft next season. And then, like I said, Delaney Walker, that's been a solid option pretty much his entire career. So he's only going to get better, I feel. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up. But I really like the hire, and I think that this Titans offense is going to look a whole lot better than what they did this past season. So that's all I got to say about that. That's going to wrap it up for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Cheifs and Kirk Cousins. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
and welcome back to the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. So far on the show, we've talked about the Super Bowl. We talked about Alex Smith going to the Redskins. Talked a bit about Titans hired Matt LaFleur as their offensive coordinator also. For this segment, we're going to be talking Kirk Cousins, and we'll probably fit in Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about them a bit. If not, we'll just move them to the fourth segment. So let's talk Kirk Cousins a bit. Obviously, with Alex Smith getting traded to the Redskins, that's one of the top quarterbacks of this offseason available that are gone. Now, the belle of the ball, Kirk Cousins. All right, who's going to pay Captain Kirk all that money? Is it going to be the Broncos? Possibly. Is it going to be the Jets? Possibly. Is it going to be the Browns? Possibly. How about the Jags? The Jags, no. Actually, yeah, we're going to talk about the Jags in the fourth segment, too. They said something this week that really frustrated me. So we'll talk about them. It's going to have to do with fantasy football a bit, too. So, yeah, we'll talk about that. But I think the Jags are pretty much out of the running for a quarterback now. All right, so where does Kirk end up? Maybe a team like Arizona. That's like a sleeper team right there, right? Let me see if I could pick up which teams have the most cap to use this season. Salary cap. All right, so I think realistically it's one of the first three teams that I mentioned, but I'm not too sure where it's going to be, all right? The Jets have the fourth most cap space. The Browns have the second most. Let's see, where is Denver at? Denver doesn't have that much, actually. Let's see. Arizona has the 18th most cap space. Where's Denver at? I'm just missing it. All right, Denver has the 17th most cap space, all right? They're looking to trade Aqib Talib, so that's going to create some more space, probably bringing him up a bit if they get his little $11 million contract out of there. All right, so now where does Kirk end up? Personally, I think that it's going to be Denver, all right, because John Elway has struggled drafting quarterbacks. All right, Brock Osweiler didn't work out. Trevor Siemian didn't work out. Paxton Lynch did not work out. The Broncos were a 4-12 team this season, I believe, and I think that was more had to do with the fact that they had bad quarterback play rather than anything else. Like, people like to say, oh yeah, their defense took a step back. I'm not too sure about that. Did Denver's defense really take a step back, or was it just a case of them being on the field constantly throughout the game and not getting any breaks, and pretty much you give up a touchdown, game's already over? I think that's what the case was with Denver's defense. They have talent on that team, right? For them to go out and play as poorly as they did this year, I mean, there's got to be more behind it, and that's where I think the quarterback play comes in. All right, you got guys like, even on the offensive side, you got guys like Demaryius Thomas putting up near 1,000 yards with playing with three different quarterbacks. Imagine what he could do with a guy like Kirk Cousins. All right, are you sure you don't want to take Kirk Cousins? You want to draft a quarterback in this year? You want to take Baker Mayfield possibly, Josh Allen, maybe a Sam Darnold if he falls to you? Or do you want to go with a guy like Kirk Cousins? Yeah, you're going to have to make him the highest paid quarterback of all time, most likely, but I mean, it might be worth it, honestly. I mean, can you take it? Like, you know what? I'm making my pick right now. Kirk is going to end up on the Broncos. All right, I think that's going to happen just because of the fact that this Denver Broncos team has way too much talent that they're wasting because of the fact that they don't have a quarterback. They're in a win-now situation. All right, if you have a good quarterback, then that's a team that makes the playoffs, and this should be them. Like, the Broncos the last 2 years should have been competing for Super Bowls. All right, that team is that good, and the only reason why they weren't is because of quarterback play. When Manning retired, they had no real backup plan at all. Drafted Paxton Lynch last year, but I mean, the guy barely played because he got beat out by Trevor Siemian. So now they're stuck. Now they're forced to go out and get a guy like Kirk Cousins. Because like I said, you draft a guy like Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, I don't think they're ready from day one. And now you're just wasting even more time with this team. You're wasting Von Miller's time. You're wasting Chris Harris Jr.'s time. You're wasting Todd Davis's time. You're wasting Demaryius Thomas's time. You're wasting C.J. Anderson's time. All right? John Elway owes it to this team to go out and get a real quarterback. Von Miller has been one who's been very vocal about bringing in Kirk Cousins. Von Miller wants a real quarterback. He knows what this team is capable of with a real quarterback. All right, bringing in a rookie is just going to set you back even more. You're bringing Kirk Cousins. Demaryius Thomas is going to come back to being a top 10 receiver in fantasy football again. I'm sure CJ Anderson's numbers will benefit from Kirk Cousins being out there. And maybe they bring back Emmanuel Sanders. You'll see his numbers go back up too. All right, and that defense will look a whole lot better in fantasy football than it did this past season because of the fact they're not going to be on the field the entire time. They're going to have times to rest, all right? They can give up a touchdown and still not be like, oh, game's over, so we don't have to try anymore. All right, so Denver, I think, with Kirk Cousins, I think that's going to happen because Denver really has no choice. All right, they got to be in win-now mode, so Kirk is the guy. But let's say he doesn't go to the Broncos. Let's say he ends up in New York with the Jets. I don't really like that fit. The Jets really don't have a solid running back. Wide receiver, they're kind of iffy at right now. I think Robbie Anderson, when it's all said and done, him dealing with his case is going to end up getting suspended for the first 4 games of the season, I feel. You need a number 2 receiver. You need a number 3 receiver. You got to see what Austin Seferian-Jenkins is going to be in his second year with the Jets. Played really well this past season. Produced, but I mean, you got to see if he could keep it going consistently. Like I said, you got to fix up the offensive line. So, I mean, Kirk Cousins with the Jets, if he goes there, I mean, honestly, I think out of those 3 teams, the Broncos, the Jets, and the Browns, if I had to rank them, it would go Denver as the top destination, then the Browns, and then the Jets. But the Jets are not close to the Browns, I feel, as far as destinations for Kirk Cousins. It doesn't seem like a good situation for him. They probably do have the best coach out of the 3, but as far as talent around them, it's not as good as Denver's or Cleveland's. And yes, I know Cleveland went 0-16. I get that. All right, I completely get that. Don't yell at me. All right, I just do not think that the Jets are going to be a good team even with Kirk Cousins. I think the Jets are suited off better drafting a quarterback rather than trying to see if Kirk can work out. All right. The Jets have had, like, ever since Chad Pennington left the team, they've had Brett Favre. That was a weird little situation. You had Mark Sanchez. They went to 2 AFC Championship games, but that wasn't really because of Mark Sanchez. Geno Smith, and then Josh McCown, Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty. I feel like there's someone after Mark Sanchez or Geno Smith that I'm missing. Maybe I'm not. But nonetheless, I mean, the Jets just don't really seem like a good fit. I think it's time that they just pretty much bring in some young people, bring in a young quarterback, bring in a rookie quarterback, and see what he could do. All right? Because like people think, oh, they did that with Christian Hackenberg or Bryce Petty. I don't understand why people thought like they would have been anything in the NFL. Christian Hackenberg was an okay quarterback at Penn State. I think he was a bit overrated. Bryce Petty was good at Baylor, but it's Baylor. So there's the Jets and then the Browns. What to do with them? Kirk Cousins goes to the Browns. That's a 7-win team at least. At least. All right, because I've been seeing that if Kirk Cousins goes to the Browns, NFL draft writers, NFL analysts are saying they should trade that first pick, trade down from the first pick, and get more picks. I don't think so. I'm keeping that first round pick if I'm the Browns. Unless someone's offered me a king's ransom for that number 1 pick. All right. It's got to be like what the Redskins offered the Rams the year they drafted RG3, I think it was. Then they trade up to the number 2 pick, and I think they traded up to number 2 and ended up taking RG3. Rams got a whole bunch out of that. All right. So I think that's what it's going to take for the Browns to trade out if they get Kirk Cousins. But honestly, I wouldn't even do that. If I'm the Browns, I'm going drafting Kirk Cousins, drafting Saquon Barkley with my number 1 pick, then drafting Minkah Fitzpatrick with the 4th pick in the draft. Because then after that, you still got 5 picks within the 2nd and 3rd round. All right, they have 7 picks in the within the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounds. That's 7 starters you could draft. I don't think you need to trade that first pick for even more picks because already you got a bunch. All right, so let's say they pick up Kirk Cousins, then they draft Barkley. Like I said, you got Cousins at quarterback, Barkley at running back, Gordon at receiver, Coleman at receiver if he stays healthy, and then David Njoku. David Njoku is someone I'm really looking out for. I think he's going to be really good this season. All right, was a rookie this past season, got more time to develop now. I think he's going to put it all together in his second season, or at least not put it all together, but you know what I mean. Just pretty much be a viable fantasy option, especially with Kirk Cousins as quarterback. Josh Gordon, I think he's going to have a really good year. That's a guy you should be drafting 5th, 6th round possibly. Like even, honestly, you could probably get away with Josh Gordon being your number 1 receiver for being real here. I'm talking if Kirk Cousins is the quarterback too. All right. But I could also see the Browns saying, you know what? Let's just go with... Actually, I think that it's either... Like the Browns, they're going to go into free agency trying to get Kirk Cousins. Like that's going to be the number 1 thing for them. All right? I'm sure they'd rather have Kirk Cousins than draft someone with that number 1 pick because obviously the quarterbacks that they've drafted haven't really worked out, if you've noticed. There's a nice little jersey that'll tell you. All right? So as far as all of that, I think the Browns going into free agency, like I said, they're going to be trying to get Kirk Cousins. If they don't, it's just going to be because he either wanted Denver more or Denver just offered him more money. But I don't see how Denver offers him more money than Cleveland since Cleveland has way more cap space. So it's either Kirk just wants Denver or he's going to end up in Cleveland. He doesn't end up in Cleveland, then that's where you go Sam Darnold or Josh Allen, I think. Personally, I'd go Josh Rosen. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft, but that's just my opinion. So Kirk Cousins with any of these 3 teams, with 2 of these teams would be really good. With one of them, talking about the Jets, I don't think he'd be that great. All right. With Denver, I think that's the best fit. With Cleveland, I think he could do a whole lot there. You know what? We're just going to push Patrick Mahomes to the 4th segment. And we're going to talk about Blake Bortles too. So that's actually going to wrap it up for this one. Next up, like I said, we'll be talking about Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, and Blake Bortles. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Podcast. Tongue twister there. So far in the show, we talked about the Super Bowl, made my pick for that. We talked about Alex Smith going to the Redskins, talked a bit about the Titans, and we talked about Kirk Cousins and pretty much what teams could be in line to pick him up. I think it's going to be Denver, but it could be Cleveland. I don't think it'll be the Jets, so it's going to be Cleveland or Denver. That's what I'd put my money on. But for this segment, we're going to finish up the show talking about the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars deciding to keep Blake Bortles as the starting quarterback. Jesse doesn't like it one bit. Let me tell you that. Does not like it one bit. I don't understand why. Why did they do this? All right, this team is a Super Bowl contender. And they're just choosing to kill that dream. Like, why? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, Blake Bortles obviously played all right in the playoffs and did well, but that's just it. He just played well in the playoffs. He hasn't shown in his 4 years that he could put it all together and be consistent over a 16-game season. All right. And it's frustrating. All right. I'm not trying to hate on Blake Bortles too much or anything like that. And maybe he proves me wrong, and I'd be very happy if he did. That way, I could see this Jacksonville team, who was extremely entertaining, go out and win a Super Bowl. All right. Jacksonville isn't my favorite team in the league by any means, but I love watching them play. I love them talking smack the entire time. All right. It's very entertaining to me. But nonetheless, I mean, keeping a guy like Blake Bortles, I feel, is going to hold back your receivers. Okay? Allen Robinson's going to be back next season. I'm not sure if they're going to extend him or just franchise him, but nonetheless, I think he'll be back. You got guys like Dede Westbrook, Kanan Cole. Who else? Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns. Those guys could put up big numbers with the right quarterback. And I don't think Blake Bortles is that right quarterback. All right, Blake Bortles being there affects everyone, I feel. Even Leonard Fournette. Because now you're still going to have teams, if Blake Bortles is your starting quarterback, you're still going to have teams who are stacking the box ridiculously every single play, telling Blake Bortles, yeah, go ahead, throw the ball. Try and beat us that way, because you can't. All right? I don't understand it. And again, I'm not trying to be on the anti-Blake Bortles fan club or anything like that. I'm already in the anti-Jeff Fisher fan club. So I'm not trying to join another one. But nonetheless, I mean, you got to go out and you got to do something better. I mean, go out and get yourself Kirk Cousins. All right, but it's too late now because I think they picked up Blake Bortles' $19 million option, so they're stuck with him. So what does that mean for them going forward? It means that their receivers are really not going to be big fantasy football options. It means that Leonard Fournette, I mean, it doesn't really affect Leonard Fournette negatively, I feel. I mean, he's still going to go out and do his thing and play well, but if you had a quarterback like Kirk Cousins out there even before, like an Alex Smith type before he got traded, Leonard Fournette's numbers would be even better than what they were. But now you got Blake Bortles out there. So like I said, they're going to be stacking the box ridiculously, and it's going to be a bit tough for Leonard Fournette. So, I mean, the Jags can do what they want. Obviously, they know something that we don't, I guess. But nonetheless, I don't like the move, and I think they could do better. All right, Blake Bortles is okay, but they could do way better. I don't think Blake obviously, it doesn't take a great quarterback to get you to the Super Bowl anymore. The Eagles have shown that. All right. But Blake Bortles is no Nick Foles. And like I said, you just need they just need to do a tiny bit better at quarterback, and they'd be Super Bowl contenders. So we'll see how next season ends up. It's all early, but just don't agree with the move really too much. Now let's talk about the Chiefs. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. He's the guy. They traded Alex Smith, so he could become the guy. All right. Do I think that he's going to do well? I'm not sure. Patrick Mahomes played one game, and it was Week 17, the week where everyone rests their starters. All right, played well, but nonetheless, like I said, starters were rested. So how do I think he's going to do this season? It's interesting. Okay, because Andy Reid is his coach. Andy Reid has done well with quarterbacks his entire career. Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick, and it somehow traded A.J. Feely for a second-round pick, so obviously that means he had some value there. Had Alex Smith playing the best years of his career in Kansas City. So Andy Reid, that's one thing where I'm kind of encouraged with Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid knows how to coach up quarterbacks, and Andy Reid honestly might be the second best coach in the league if we're being real here. All right. Let's think about it for a second. You got Bill Belichick obviously at number one. Then that's where you could throw in Andy Reid, a Mike Tomlin type. Is Mike Tomlin a better coach than Andy Reid? Overall, all time? I'm not sure. Andy Reid is a weird coach because he tends to get in his way a bunch, like how he did in the playoff game against the Titans by not giving the ball to Kareem Hunt more than 11 times. But Andy Reid consistently fields good teams, consistently puts out great quarterbacks. So you know what? Andy Reid is a great coach. Top two might have been a little out there. I'd say he's a top 5 coach in the league. All right. But nonetheless, going back to Patrick Mahomes, like I said, I just told you, Andy Reid, as far as quarterbacks goes, done well with all of them. I think that's why they got rid of Alex Smith, because Andy Reid thinks that Patrick Mahomes is ready, and I'm sure Patrick Mahomes has already learned a lot under Reid. All right, I'm excited to see Mahomes. Mahomes could be a little sneaky good fantasy player next season. All right, he's got a cannon of an arm. You got a receiver in Tyreek Hill who, if he just runs a straight line, he's going to beat the cornerback. So you could see Tyreek Hill have a great year. And again, this is all dependent on how Patrick Mahomes does. But like I said, I think he's going to play well because Andy Reid is going to have him playing well. He's going to coach him up and help develop him even more. All right. So I think Tyreek Hill is going to thrive under a guy like Mahomes. And I'm not sure how much better Travis Kelce will get with a guy like Mahomes playing quarterback. Alex Smith was a safe quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Safe meaning he always looked for the tight end, always looked for the running back. All right, tight end is always usually the one that's open, especially Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the league, probably the second best, right ahead of Zach Ertz and Kyle Rudolph, he's just behind Rob Gronkowski, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not sure if Kelce's numbers are going to go up or if they're going to go down. If I had to put money on it, I think that Travis Kelce, obviously he's going to have a solid season and he's going to play well because, like I said, he is one of the best tight ends in the league. But I think Mahomes is going to be looking more for his receivers. Alex Smith never really looked at his receivers too much, except for Tyreek Hill. Mahomes is going to be a guy that I think spreads it out a whole lot more, and he's going to take more chances. Alex Smith is a play-it-safe type of guy, and he's going to make the completion, and he's going to put the team in the best position to win. Patrick Mahomes is going to go out there gunslinging like Jay Cutler. All right, Patrick Mahomes has an arm like Jay Cutler. Let's realize that. I'm talking about Jay Cutler too. I was talking about him on the football podcast the other day on Wednesday, I believe it was, or it may have been yesterday on the sports podcast. Can't remember exactly. Yesterday we did do the football podcast. Forgot. But yeah, we talked about him yesterday. And Jay Cutler had all the talent in the world to be a quarterback who was top 5 in the league. I mean, Cutler could have been in the playoffs year after year, throwing for over 30 touchdowns, over 4,000 yards year after year. But I don't know. Jay Cutler is a weird quarterback. I just don't think he cared enough to do it. All right, but that's like I'm saying. I'm comparing Patrick Mahomes to him because they both have crazy arm strength. Patrick Mahomes, like I said yesterday on this football podcast, Patrick Mahomes needs to be, a Jay Cutler type quarterback as far as skill set, but mindset, he's got to be like Alex Smith. He's got to be smart with the ball, can't take too many chances. Yeah, obviously you're going to have to try and take some chances, but don't just go out there throwing it thinking you're going to make every throw because you're not. All right, eventually you got to take the easy pass and you got to take the check down. I think Patrick Mahomes will be able to do that, though. Like I said, as far as Travis Kelce goes, I think Mahomes is going to spread the ball out a bunch more, so I think Kelce's production is going to take a slight little dip. And as for Kareem Hunt, I mean, this really doesn't affect him too much. I mean, it affects him as far as getting the ball at the backfield because, like I said, I don't see Mahomes going for him too much. I mean, you know what? I might be wrong because this is going to be Mahomes' first real year as a starter. So maybe he is going to be looking for the safe options, and he is going to be looking for the checkdowns in his first year just to get comfortable. So that could be the case, but if I'm just going to stick with the way I'm thinking about it right now. As far as Kareem Hunt goes, like I said, I don't really see him doing too much as far as catching the ball at the backfield. I think he's going to be one of those type, just pretty much 15 carries a game, and whatever he gets there is what he's going to get in fantasy. All right, so that's how I think that's going to end up. As far as them getting Kendall Fuller, I like it. He's going to be the starting cornerback for that team along with Marcus Peters. And that's one thing they needed. The secondary, besides Marcus Peters, was pretty brutal. Gave up a bunch of yards and a bunch of touchdowns. So I throw in a guy like Kendall Fuller to help shape it up. It's going to be really good. As far as the draft goes for them, you still got to build on that defensive line. It's getting older and older, and the same with the linebacking corps. So you've got to start bringing in the younger reinforcements. All right, and I think that Kansas City's defense is going to be a nice little viable fantasy option next season. So that's what I think about that. Again, Patrick Mahomes, I think he's going to do well. I think he could be a sleeper type quarterback in fantasy football, sort of like a Deshaun Watson type, But we're going to have to wait and see. So that's going to wrap it up for today's GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. We talked about the Super Bowl game, talked about Alex Smith going to the Redskins, talked a bit about Kirk Cousins, the Titans, and then we talked about Blake Bortles a bit and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs going forward. So like I said, that's going to wrap it up for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. As always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. So stay tuned, and we'll be back next Thursday. We'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmc.com. GSMCpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.